We've now created the initial state as well as the expanded state of our drop menu, but we've yet to create how to close our drop menu. Now, this should happen automatically, and there's a little trick we're going to do that's going to make it seem as if it's automatic, but it's all still buttons and rollovers. So let's go ahead and build this. What we're now going to create is another rectangle, and I want to create a very loud, garish color here. And I want to move our playhead to the expanded state. And I'm going to click and drag a pretty large rectangle that covers everything. Now, if you note, I'm starting way before the buttons start and just covering up everything here. Instead of this being called rectangle 2, I'm going to call this close_btn for close button. Now, do I want the button to be always on? No, but I do want it to be on in the expanded state. So I'll simply click, turn this on, and I'll move my playhead back to the contracted state just to make sure it's off. And again, if you do not see that it's turned off in the contracted state, then make sure you just simply come up here and set it to off. Now, one problem is that we simply have this and it's covering everything. Well, to change that, I'm going to go over to my Elements window and I'm going to click and drag my Close button all the way to the bottom. So we now have this on the bottom and we see all of our buttons and all of our text that's sitting on top, which is what we want. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up an action that says anytime the cursor touches this large, bright green button or our close button, it's automatically going to go to the contracted state. So right click on our close button, open the actions for our close button, and we'll go to mouse over. And we want this to stop at, and we'll do open and close quotes, and we'll have this go to contract. So now if we test our movie, Command Return, Control Enter on PC, see button 1, roll over, we have all of our different buttons highlighting, and once we roll to the green area, it jumps back to button 1. Okay. Now, one last step. With our close button selected, we'll go to our properties and set the opacity all the way to 0. So when we test our movie now, we have a fully functioning drop menu. Now, you might be looking at your timeline and thinking, okay, this is a lot of extra lines and extra layers just for a drop menu. Couldn't we just drop this down to a single element? Well, yes, we can. We can create a symbol from this. There are just a few extra steps we'd have to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll select all of my layers. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and I have all of my layers selected. And I'll right click on the timeline, convert this to a symbol, and we'll call this drop menu 1. And we do not want our timeline to automatically play because that would automatically start showing the contracted and expanded view. So we'll click OK. And so now we have drop menu 1. Now, there is one problem though. Let's test our movie. Command Return. So right now, it seems our drop menu stopped working. Well, let's find out what exactly happened. So if I double click and go into our symbols timeline, this is drop menu 01, we see we still have the expanded version, but our labels are no longer here. So let's go back to our main timeline, to the stage, and I can select our label contract, hold down my Shift key, select the label for expand, right click, and I'm going to cut these, double click on our symbol, and simply do Command V or paste. And we now have our labels inside of our symbol. So now let's test our movie. Command Return. So now we have our fully functioning drop menu, and we've housed this into a symbol. You can duplicate the symbol. You can go in and manipulate the different elements, of course, changing your names from button 1, 2, and 3 to something that means a little more sense, like portfolio, resume, contact. But all in all, drop menus are a really simple way to put a lot of different navigation in a small space.